like most things in life, the way we hold, stand, move with objects organises itself. The grip and the stance in golf are something that just emerge. We discover our grip. We don't actually create the grip intentionally using some set of fundamentals. The grip actually organises itself. So we've got to let that happen, but we've got to know how to do it, because often the mind gets in the way and we try to grip in a way that we've been instructed, or we instruct ourselves through information, but this might not be the way your body wants to grip it. Just like everything else in your life, you don't think about how you grip an object. You just go and react intuitively with the task in mind. So if you go to pick up a kettle or a cup, that's with the intention of either boiling the kettle, filling it with water, or taking a drink. But you don't think about how you hold the cup, yet your movements are uninhibited because the way you gripped it was optimal for the intention of the movement you're going to make to achieve the task. It's the same in golf. So the task is to play the golf shot using the golf club, and we can move the golf club in all these different directions. So that's what we want to explore. We want to explore the up and down, side to side, and rotation. And to do that, we're going to take two clubs, a 6 and a 7 I've got, 7 or an 8's fine too, a mid-length club. I'm going to place the 6 in the left, 7 in the right. So I'm placing the longest club in my lead hand, my left hand, and I'm going to make some swings. And I'm going to allow the wrists and the forearms full range of motion to rotate the club heads. So I'm allowing a freewheeling motion out to the right, to the left, and then straight ahead. We can start to explore our movement a little bit more and make figure eights. So now we're starting to really tap into the flexion and extensions of the wrists with the rotations. And are we able to allow the clubs to travel out here? Or does the club want to go in here? Maybe our dominant mode of release is with flexion extension along the arc, and we're using the path to release the club. How comfortable do we feel actually allowing the handles to travel that way and release the club away from the body? Likewise, if we change the direction of the figure eight, now they're swinging this way to the left. That might, for faders, be a bit more recognisable, and so therefore I'd recommend exploring the other way, because it's allowing the club to release in the opposite direction that's going to help you find that middle ground to regulate those shot shapes. But as a golfer, we don't want to restrict our body into any particular form, because we want to be able to adapt our form for any particular shot, and we want to recognise that release pattern. So we've got to explore all this movement capability here to realise our movement potential. So making these figure eights can be a challenge at first, because the clubs should travel in sync. So the club heads at any moment in time are doing the same thing, and the club shafts are travelling together. Be careful if you've got nice golf clubs. We don't want to be clattering them and damaging those nice forged heads, because we want to do this without looking. We don't want to have to keep checking where they are, because in a golf swing you're not going to have time and it's going to be too quick. We want to let the clubs swing freely, but at any moment in time we could stop, and the clubs are moving in harmony. They're synced, so the club faces aren't all skewed, the shafts aren't pointing in different directions, the shafts are moving in parallel pretty much, and the club faces are rotating the same amount. So what we want to notice whilst we're doing this is how we're gripping them, because the grip that's allowing us all this freedom of motion in all these different directions is the way that you want to be gripping it. So here, with these square leading edges, we've got the left hand and the right hand grip. So now I'm going to take the 7 iron away, but I'm going to be mindful of where the right hand is on the grip in relation to the leading edge, and now I'm going to put that on the 6 iron in the same place below the left hand. Any kind of grip is acceptable. I just interlock just purely because I've done it from a young age, probably how I was taught, to be honest, but it feels comfortable. But more importantly, that's how my hands want to grip the club, and that may be orthodox, unorthodox. To be honest, I don't label it. There's no real language associated with this. It's a feeling. There are no 2 knuckles, 3 knuckles, there are no V's, there are no lines, there is no toothpaste, there is no bird. It's a case of we're just gripping it, holding this club in a ready state to perform with this. We're getting ready to swing the club. That's all that matters. We're letting the body organise itself. These dynamics are ultimately happening without our conscious thought, and this is what we need to do to find the grip. So I'm ready to go with the grip, but how do I stand to the ball? So the stance or posture is another ready state of performance. Just like tennis, it's a ready state. We are getting ready to perform. It's not a contrived, deliberate posture, organised under tension with a kind of deliberate positioning, which is almost constraining our movement and almost preparing us for a very kind of static, slow, chunked, contrived motion. We're actually getting ready to respond. We're actually getting ready to move and react to the intention of the shot. And in golf, yes, the ball's static, but everything else is moving. And the golf shot is what we're reacting to. So when we're looking at the ball, yes, we're thinking about playing a golf shot and hitting the ball, but what's really in our mind is the golf shot. The third eye is on the golf shot, and that's what we're responding to. That is what the body is reacting to with its movement, and we've got to allow it to happen. If we're stood in a position that's constraining our movement and restricting us, we're probably not utilising our full movement capability and making the swing that we know we're capable of. We're probably restricting ourselves in some way and inhibiting this free use of the golf club. So we need the posture to enable us to move. And how do we find that? Well, we've got to recognise how we're going to move. And then the posture is allowed to adapt to the intention of the movement that is about to happen. So it reverse engineers. First of all, we've got to know how we're going to move. What forces are we going to be using? And how's the body going to move to use these forces? Well, we know from watching the videos that we've got a horizontal, we've got a rotational, and we've got a vertical force. And the body is going to be using these to create that angular momentum, i.e. the sequence, and speed that golf club up, creating those all-important impact factors to play that golf shot just the way you want, with a de-lofted club, sweet spot to the ball, a rotating face, and a controlled release pattern. So we need the posture to allow this to happen. So we need to stand in a way that is ready, that's going to allow us to move and respond to that ball flight, because that is the name of the game, the ball flight, because that is what's going to get us onto the green and around the golf course. So what we can do, and you've probably seen these before on the channel, take a tennis ball, chop it in half, and now we've got some stimulus to react to. We've got some sense of how we're interacting with the ground, because sometimes we become desensitized. Our swing has become normalized because we do it day in, day out, and we don't recognize any scope for adaptation. There's no real reinvention taking place, only conceptual in our mind, and that's down to perception. And sometimes that can be skewed. What we think we're doing and what we're actually doing are two different things. And we never really experience a shift in performance. We never really experience that change in our movement that will allow us to improve our performance. So how can we stand in a way that's going to open up this potential? Well, the first thing we need to do is explore these three forces, and then we're going to find our natural posture, which is going to be fairly centralised to allow us to move in all these directions with the intent of making the swing and optimising the use of these forces. Taking the tennis balls, normal stance width, first of all, stomp the feet. Just get used to shifting pressure. Okay, and then what we're going to do, we're going to take the golf club using a karate chop grip, and we're just going to swing it from side to side. But what I'd like you to do is use that feeling of pressure with the tennis balls and push, but we're not going to push by extending. We're going to let our body weight fall, and then to swing the club up, we're going to extend, and that allows us to swing the club up through this rotation of the body. So this extension now opens up the rotations, and this creates a momentum that we transfer outwardly up the chain through to the club. And once we've gone up, we then want to shift, and we do that by falling. So whenever we're shifting, we're falling. Whenever we're accelerating the club, we're extending and rotating. So the shift or weight transfer is inflection, and the rotation is through extension. So we can actually adapt this exercise to accentuate this feeling. Feet together, drop it into the ball, standing up, and as the club swings up, we drop into the other ball, and then we stand up to swing. And then we can now keep the feet on the tennis balls and just continue the action. So there's flexions, extensions, rotations, side bends, horizontal movement, lots of stuff going on through the body, and we're experiencing all of them in a similar sequence that we imagine a golf swing to be. We can even let this swing more around the body now. then what we're going to do is we're going to stop at that perceived setup position. But notice I stopped from the follow through backwards, not from the backswing down. So I'm getting a sense of where I'm going to be going to, and then work it back to where I want to be at setup. And this is probably very close to where I want to be. Now I'm going to stomp the feet, waggle the club. Posturally, we're engaged, connected to the ground, in a state of readiness to make this swing in either direction. And I'm using the grip that I discovered with the original exercise. I'm stomping the feet, feeling that engagement with the ground. Posturally, the body will find its dynamic balance because your posture is actually ever changing. But when it changes at speed using greater ranges, that's what we perceive as movement. But it's dynamic posture within great ranges at speed. So your movement essentially is just changing posture. So think of that, think of the posture changing. Where do you want it to change from? How's the posture going to adapt to move? What's the best starting place for that to happen? Well, we've got to move to find it. And this exercise is going to let you find that. Stomping the feet, maintaining that incline with the upper body. We're ready to go. We're ready to go up, down, up again. We're ready to rotate, and we're ready to move horizontally. We've got all these components available to us now to use in a golf swing because we're standing in a way that's going to allow it to happen. So side on, stomping the feet, getting that state of readiness, karate chop grip, arms comfortably extended, not locked out here because we're going to make a swing around the body. And we're going to go down and up, down and up, and then stop. Stomp the feet, take the grip, waggle the club, and now settle and get ready. And the body organises itself ready for action. And this is how we want to get ready for a golf shot. This is a state of readiness. This is organising itself dynamically, and you're not having to think about it. You're just thinking about what you intend to do and let the body sort itself. Get out of its way, let yourself react to the club, let yourself react to the ground, and all these fundamentals take care of themselves. If you love the coaching and want to experience the effects of the training that you see with our pupils, you can purchase the GRFI system yourself by following the link in the video description. You'll get all the equipment and a 2-hour download covering all the fundamentals, exploring your movement and how you can use the ground and create those all-important ground reaction forces and transfer them through to clubhead speed and experience the gains that you're seeing in the videos.